wonderful to see you all here, especially on such a gorgeous sunny day, or it is where I am, you know, that you've dragged yourselves out of your gardens and you've come to hear Marian talk, which I'm sure will be wonderful. So welcome to everyone. And we might have, I'm trying to look at names, we might even have some visitors from Aix-en-Provence. I don't know, Marian, if you recognise any names.
Well, Isabel, I know Isabel de Castro, who is the twinning officer in charge of the Bath X twinning, and a great friend of ours and a supporter of twinning. She was hoping to join us, but
so perhaps she will join us a little bit later.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you to everyone for coming, and a big thanks to our speaker, Marian McNeir MBE. Marian's commitment to Bath and North East Somerset goes back a very long time through her involvement in the civic, political and cultural life of the city. She was a Lib Dem councillor for 16 years, has been chair of Baines Council, deputy mayor and mayor of Bath. And as mayor of Bath, she welcomed the Queen to the city in 2001. Her trusteeships past and present include Bridgemead Care, a residential care home, the University of Bath Students' Union Council and Court, and she's now director of the Students' Union. The Holborn Museum, Theatre Royal, she's currently a trustee of the Victoria Art Gallery. She's on the board of Forever Friends at RUH, and she also chairs the Silver Ring Choir. And the list goes on. I mean, Marian has contributed so much to our city. With Gitta Dawson, a fellow councillor, she introduced the German Christmas markets to Bath, and for this she was awarded an MBE. She's also currently chair of the Ex-Bath Twinning Association, Twinning Committee, and twinning is the focus of our conversation today. So welcome, Marian.
Thanks, Jane.
Could you tell us something of the history of Bath's Twinning Association and which cities are we twinned with?
Well, I'd like to go back just a little bit before that, because like so many things that really make a difference to our lives, twinning is all about a vision. After World War II. When governments, European governments and organisations like the British Council, the Goethe Institute, were tasked with finding ways, especially for young people, to grow up understanding each other's cultures, understanding how their languages, how they live, so that we could never be in a situation again like the horrors of World War II. And they came up with one of their visionary ideas, which was twinning. So towns and cities and villages were linked together in with all sorts of different criteria. Sometimes, for example, with a big city like Bristol, which is twinned with Hanover, it was because of their importance as trading cities and because they'd been badly bombed. And our link with Braunschweig was because we're about the same distance from Bristol as Braunschweig is from Hanover. And so there's been a very successful twinning with Bath and Braunschweig. The longest twinning is Bath-Alkmaar, and that came about in very wonderful circumstances in a way, sad at the time, but they've developed in a wonderful way. A Jewish man, Eli Prince, came to Bath with his barrel organ just after the war to collect money to support starving children in Alkmaar, his home city. And he was received with open, and the children then came to stay in Bath. And that was 75 years ago. So that twinning has been going for 75 very successful years. We have a twinning with Kaposvar in Hungary, and And our twinning with Aix about because we were looking for somewhere, Aix was looking for somewhere. We have quite similar, a similar population, about 155,000 Aix has. We're not quite up to that. We're both university towns, we're spa towns. We are centres for culture and for festivals. And it seemed that we were quite a good fit. And in fact, the 40 years since we've been officially twinned in 1977 have been very successful. And I'd just like to tell you how we marked our 40th anniversary. And there are people I'm looking at now who were very involved in that celebration. We meet once a month as a twinning committee, but it's open, actually. Our twinning committee is open. Meetings are open to anyone who wants to join in. So we have a good attendance. Anyway, we spent ages trying to work out what we could do that was really meaningful. And we decided on a heritage conference in both cities. And we had a very well attended one with the deputy mayor of Aix and with the president of Heritage from Aix in the assembly rooms, and ordinary people from Aix joined in as well, came over, stayed with families here. But I had this dream, really, of a stone bench. Now, I know probably I'm quite unique in waking up dreaming of, having dreamt of stone benches. But I had this clear vision that we needed a Bath stone bench in Parade Gardens. Parade Gardens didn't know we wanted that or needed it, but they got it. And anyway, it was thanks to the wonderful Elaine Marsden, who was the owner at the time of the Bath Stone Mine, and she gave stone to the apprentice stonemasons at Bath City College. We then had a competition for a design, and I had met in Aix a well-known poet, and I wanted to incorporate one of his shorter poems on the bench, carved into the bench. And it was a 19-year-old stonemason apprentice who did the carving. And I do encourage you to go down by the river in Parade Gardens and sit on our bench. It looks out into the river, and it's just something that's going to be there for always.
Thank you, Marian. That's fabulous. I didn't know anything about that bench, and I'm desperate to go and sit on it now. That sounds great. How did you you personally?
Well, I was very lucky that I was sponsored by the British Council as a schoolgirl to go and attend a school in Germany and to live with a German family. And I was supposed to go for 6 months, but I loved it so much I didn't come home. And so I completed my Abitur in Germany, and then I went to university in Heidelberg, and I became a member of staff at Marburg University. And I'd also been to France a lot because my godmother is French. So I'd been staying with her ever since I was a little girl. And then I became a teacher of languages, and eventually a modern languages inspector for Northamptonshire, which at the time was a very inward-looking county. And I thought twinning is what these children need, the possibility to go and live with a family in France or Germany, and to experience something that they cannot experience in Northamptonshire. Mm. And because of my links, and this often happens with twinning, because of my links with Marburg, where I'd been on the university staff, I set up a twinning with the help of the British Council with Marburg. Marburg was twinned already with Poitiers, so I did a three-link triangular partnership. And it was because I was in schools all the time, this was before Ofsted. I had contact with all the teachers and the heads of department and the heads, and so I could really promote this. And we had the most amazing exchanges. And it was very centered on young people. I was really pleased about that. But then their parents and even their grandparents who were doing adult education courses said, why can't we go? Why is it only our children and grandchildren who can go? So then I started organizing similar kind of. And one of the things that always made me smile was that the children, once they were with me and their teachers, their whole aim was to escape us. But the adults were like ducklings, and I used to feel like a mother duck with them. Whenever I turned round, there'd be an adult beside me saying, "What do we do now, Marian?" But you know, I'm still in touch with those people, and I know how they did something that they never thought they would do, and it really enriched their lives. And when I came to Bath and became a counsellor, twinning wasn't in a very healthy situation. And so with the help of wonderful people associated with all the twinning associations, we got twinning going again, supported by the Charter Trustees, which is a tremendous help. I mean, they do give us some financial support, and just the fact that the mayor is our president, and every year the mayor goes and visits one of our twin cities, and then we have the mayor of another twin city back. So we've got a kind of rolling program. And it's not just, if only for, you know, very senior people like that, I would be worried. But we always hang things as visit. For example, Paul Crossley, when he was mayor, he went to Aix, and they had very nice Euro funding. And I have to say, over the years, at knowing how to tap European funding, and they were looking at an integrated transport system. You know, something that Bath was also interested in. So we had a conference, and various officers went, people who I hoped would be able to bring back some ideas and put them into practice. One of the ideas was something called diaboline. And a diaboline, does anyone know what a diaboline is? It's, you know, in Thailand and places, they have tuk-tuks. Oh. Well, a diaboline is a French version of a tuk-tuk, except that you can get about 8 people in it. It has a driver, it's electric, and you pay €2 and you go anywhere you want in the centre of Aix. And I use it all the time when I'm there. There are diaboline stops, but you can also put your handout and stop it as well. And if they've got a space, they'll stop and let you in. And I could see that in Bath. You know, could you all see
I think it sounds terrific.
Yes,
I don't know why we haven't been talking about this before, you know, with all our sort of, you know, issues about transport. It sounds fabulous.
Well, Sue Craig came with my choir last year. We took part in a music festival in Aix last year, and Sue Craig sings, Councillor Sue Craig sings with the Silver Ring Choir. And she was very impressed by it. And then when we came back, we got overtaken by other events. And so it's there. And really, Bath for Europe, you could get behind this. That's what you could do, you know, and start asking questions and start to make it happen. Because I think there's mileage in this. Sorry, a bit of a pun there.
Yes.
But I think there is mileage. Could be slow mileage, because the Aberleens are a bit slow. But I remember about 12 years ago when they started the Diaboline, they were quite primitive with just canvas sides and things like that. Now they are proper electric kind of taxis, people's taxis. People's taxis, that's a good word. Yeah.
I love that. People's taxis. Marian, could you tell us something about some of the events that the different twinning associations organise? So what type of visits go on, you know, that ordinary people can go on? You know, like the choirs, what else is there?
Well, obviously anything to do with music is really important. And Aix has a Festival Choral every May, and we have a musical group going over. And last year it was the Silver Ring Choir. This year it should have been a ukulele band. And they perform with the musical groups from other twin cities, Aix's twin cities. And that in itself is really wonderful. I mean, you know, you've got 40, 50 people who perhaps have never been abroad before, perhaps never thought they could, certainly never thought they would be sharing a stage with a choir from Hungary or Perugia in Italy. And Aix also gives funding for this, which is very generous. And they come back every year. I see choirs coming back, and I can see Mary there and Brian, and they've all been with their choirs, and they come back really inspired by having taken part and making music together. Another obvious one is sport. All sorts of different sports clubs, from rowing to football. Lots and lots of sport, and that's when we could get the young people involved again. The boule, actually, do you think of boule as being part of Bath's social life these days? If you think of Queen Square, do you think of boule? And 20 years ago, Bath didn't play boule. And then we had a group, Leslie, who was involved, Chris Garrett, and they went to Aix, and Isabel, wonderful there, he fixed boule tournaments, and we actually bought a statue, a deco having boule, and that was to be given to the winners of the tournaments. Well, at first, the only winners were the French. And so after a few years, we thought, well, let's just leave the statue down there, because they're going to win it again. But no longer. We're a true challenge for them. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but they usually go every October to take part in these ball competitions. Whether it's going to happen this year, obviously, one never knows. But what is important is it's brought ball to Bath, and that's enormous. And anyone can play ball. In fact, Leslie, who's sitting there in the middle, Leslie organised ball lessons every Thursday, didn't you? And you can't now, but because of COVID, but I'm sure they'll be resumed. That's all been very good. And I do want to say one more thing, which is actually very sad for me. And that is that when I told you how I started with twinning, and it was all about young children and pupils at schools going abroad, that doesn't happen in the same way now. And there are different reasons. One, the responsibility of teachers and parents is a bit scary these days, with child protection issues, and the schools find it, it's such a responsibility to take a group of children. It always has been, but it's more, it's somehow more serious these days. And the other thing is that before COVID, school children had so many tempting places they could go to that it seemed, not so exciting to go to France or Germany. But I have a cunning plan, which I'm going to share with you, because Bath for Europe could help with this. Do you want to hear about it now?
Absolutely, yes, please.
Right, okay, my cunning plan. Okay, it's very difficult to actually, at the moment, for children to go and stay on an exchange, stay with a family, attend a school in person, but they can do it online. And the wonderful British Council is now administrating, organising a programme funded by Erasmus, another wonderful European programme. So Erasmus are funding the British Council to set up e-twinning. This is what it's called, e-twinning. And I urge you all to go on the British Council website, and you will find out about e-twinning. It is a Zoom link with another school. The Bath X-Twinning Association could help with those links. Or the schools might just fly with it themselves. Our colleagues in Aix could help as well. There's definitely a possibility here. And actually, if you go on the website, you will see children who are taking part in these e-twinning links, and you've just got to listen to them, and it's all about what we had hoped would happen with our young people. There's a lovely one where I think they're year 8, are doing German lessons. Their teacher is German, and she's helped them make German food, and they're kind of sharing English food, which the German children are eating, on the Zoom with English children eating German food, and they're all saying, "Is this what you eat? Is this what? It's very nice."
I love it. That's fantastic. So you've talked about e-twinning. So, I mean, obviously at the moment, our future is very, very much sort of like tied up with Zoom and so forth. But what about when we are able to physically move around again? What do you see as the future for twinning in a post-Brexit? In fact, what demands or what impact will Brexit have on twinning, do you think?
Well, I think we have to grab the opportunity to foster these twinning links, and it's an infrastructure that is there. it's there from the Mayor of Bath downwards, and it's from the Mayor of Aix, filtered through to grassroots, grassroots commitment. And we mustn't let it go. We have to think of every way we can to join forces. That's what it's about, isn't it? Joining forces, and making sure that we don't lose any of our precious contacts. And as I said, they can be at the highest level. They can actually be there to change lives. For example, with the Christmas market. Now, Councillor Gita Dawson and I had known Christmas markets in Germany for many years, and we had this vision. In fact, we came out of a council meeting together, and I was giving Gita a lift home, and we were walking past the Abbey, and the Abbey clock sound, or there were bells. Oh, there were bells, that's right. And we both looked at each other and we said, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. This is it. It's got to be around the Abbey, like in Braunschweig. And I can tell you it wasn't easy. We had a lot of opposition. There were a lot of people in Bath who could not imagine a Christmas market could be of any use to anyone. But we had this very clear vision of the wooden chalets decorated with the pine and the little white lights. It took me 4 years to get rid of orange lights, little white lights, and people would give me so many reasons why it couldn't happen. I actually had to have a restraining order taken out against one gentleman who became obsessed with chasing me around the Abbey with his umbrella. And he said, how dare you, how dare you, you're just going to disturb all our lives. Bath will never be the same again. And anyway, he eventually calmed down, or he disappeared, God knows where. But there was a lot of opposition, and we did it for 4 days. We had 70,000 people, and it was a huge success. And the rest is history. I mean, there's a direct spend there was in 2018 of £7 million. And then a total overall spend in the city of over 30 million. So the Christmas market as an economic driver has been enormous for Bath. And actually, funnily enough, one of the ideas that I wanted, the reasons I wanted to do it, with Gita, obviously, who was an inspiration at the time, wonderful, and was because we had foot and mouth in Somerset, and people weren't coming, tourists weren't coming to Bath, and the local shops and restaurants were terribly worried about their income. So that was an impetus in a way, but we learned from Braunschweig, and they were very helpful. We have an Aix stall every year in the Christmas market, and some of my lovely friends here help. We have a rota system. About 20 people, I think, are involved in the week. And Isabelle and her colleague Marie-Claude bring produce from Aix, lavender products and chestnut honey and lavender honey and wine, of course, and textiles, wonderful Provençal textiles, and calisson, all sorts of things, and we're sold out. Every year we're sold out. And then we, actually before that, we take, and Mary, who's looking at me now, Mary and Leslie's done this as well, they go, and Liz, who's here as well, they go to Aix with £5,000 worth of local Bath produce. It's all local. it's mince pies. I think 1,500 mince pies from the Twerton Bakery. Mary's nodding, and little little Christmas puddings, little Christmas cakes. Masses of marmalade and pickles from a wonderful firm, a little cottage industry sort of set up called In a Pickle. Various things, and tea, yes. Mary, she's doing this. Tea from the Guildhall Market, Whittards in the Guildhall Market, and they are sold out, absolutely sold out. 5 days, everything gone, and people they are ambassadors for the city. And that's what people want to see in France. You know, they want to see that we're still connected with them, that we still love them, and we want to be there, and we welcome them here. I mean, people come to the Aix stall at the Christmas market every year to stock up for Christmas presents, and they know where we are. They know what they want, and people from Wales and Bristol places come, and yeah, you know, it's a presence.
So Marian, you're so enthusiastic about this. So if people want to join the association, where can we find information out?
Leslie, who's here, is in charge, and Liz are in charge of our Facebook page. We you've got the details, I think.
Yes, I think
I shared them in the chat. So if everybody has a look at the chat, there's actually a few links that people have been sharing as you've been speaking.
Right.
So yes, there's the link to the Facebook page, and your general email address is in the chat. But also, Philip Janssen has shared the link to Minerva Rowing Club.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously has quite strong links with Germany.
Yeah,
Suzanne founds the website for the Diabline, so if you want to see a little bit more about that. And Anna has also shared the link to the British Council e-twinning website as well. So all of that information is in the chat. So if anybody just wants to click the button at the bottom that says chat, and you'll be able to see all that information on the side there.
Yes, Minerva Rowing Club. I've been. It's actually with Alkmaar. It's with Alkmaar Rowing Club, and I've been on visits there. It's fantastic. There's a real sense of camaraderie, and a lot of us are just Facebook friends as well. So it's great.
And what's happened obviously with lockdown, we couldn't meet as we normally do in the Mayor's Parlour once a month, but we've been meeting on Zoom. And our friends from Aix have joined us, it's just been lovely to catch up, and everyone exchanges news and any ideas we've got for future events, things like that. I would say, and I'm sure all the Twinning Association members who are in front of me now, I'm sure they'd agree that we are a very open and friendly association. We are obviously passionate about Europe, and I'm very passionate about young people having the same experiences that I had, because they've shaped my life really, and enriched it really enormously.
Thank you so much, Marian. I wonder if people have any questions. But before we go on to questions, I'd like to, I wonder if Ruth Malloy would say a few words. Ruth has been appointed by the council to deal with twinning. Is that correct, Ruth?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the official title is Member Advocate for Twinning, which sounds rather grand, but it's because I showed such an enthusiasm for the twinning associations. Of the Bath ones, I actually have now joined them all, but I'm not terribly active in all of them. But and then, of course, we have the Friendship Association with Beppo as well. But I think the idea is to try and encourage more links throughout Bath and North East Somerset. There are other twinning associations already. I think all of them are with other places in France, actually. In Keynsham, there's a twinning association with Libourne, which has been going, I think, since the 70s, so that's quite a long-standing one, but there are others as well. And yeah, so I'm very keen to have all of your suggestions about how it can go forward. And I'm very interested in what Marian said about the e-twinning, because yeah, several of the twinning associations have been using Zoom to keep in touch. And it's great because you can also include people in the actual twin cities. So I think we should do more of that. And I'm very interested to hear about the British Council and what they're doing. So I'll definitely have a look at that. But yeah, so yes, I mean, on the one hand, having been with Bath for Europe for such a long time, I'm still slightly kind of stunned by the situation we find ourselves in. But I think we have to try and keep positive and build up those links, as Marian says, and yeah, join forces and learn from each other, and on all different levels. Yeah, I think it's very important for younger people to make contact with others, and I think probably in this day and age with social media that should be easier than ever before. Well, in theory, I think it's very sad that foreign language learning has been, you know, going downhill in recent years in our schools. So I'd like to see that trend reversed. You know, if we're going to be global Britain, we better know how to speak some other languages. But as far as the links go, I think, yes, on all different levels, from, you know, mayors meeting up. The mayor, or the Lord Mayor of Braunschweig, was due to come this May, and that of course had to be cancelled, or at least postponed. So the plan is that he'll come next May. But things are still going ahead. To do with the Bath Alkmaar Twinning Association, we've only very recently had the arrival of the re-arrival, I should say, of this wonderful barrel organ that has been in Alkmaar since the end of the Second World War, or shortly afterwards. It's come back over here and it's been retuned. And if you look on the Bath Alkmaar Twinning Association Twitter account, you should, I haven't actually had it, it was out earlier, but today at 12 o'clock they were actually recording all of the different tune plays. So a lot of history bound up with that. So I recommend you have a look. And what was I going to say? Yes, about a sort of link at different levels. I like to see within the council, yeah, more links between the officers, perhaps, if it's possible, with their counterparts in the other cities that we're twinned with. Last year in March, a couple officers who came over from Braunschweig City Council, and they met up with their counterparts here and exchanged ideas, and the members of the Bath Braunschweig Twinning Association were also invited to listen in, and that was very interesting. So yeah, I think it's about kind of learning from one another, and you know, remembering to keep looking outwards, really. But yes, any ideas you have for how to interest people in twinning, I would be very pleased to hear, because my impression is that despite the fact that sports and music are very good ways of encouraging more input from younger people, it does tend to be more older people now, is my impression, who are involved in twinning activities, and it'd be good to encourage more younger people as well. So yeah, if any of you have any great ideas, you can please send me them in an email. If you look on the Baines website, you'll find the email address. Thanks.
Thank you, Ruth. Marian, actually, there was one thing I was going to ask you. When we had a conversation earlier, you told me about the really wacky chef exchange project, and I was going to ask you to talk about that.
Yeah, well, you know how the French are very proud of their cuisine, and Aix decided to have a festival of cooking, and they would invite a chef from each of their twin cities who would take over a French restaurant, an ex-restaurant, and a cook with the French chef owner. And it was interesting to come up with someone from Bath, but I came up with Sam, who was, I don't know if he's still at the Bath Priory Hotel, but he was there, young man. Anyway, he hadn't been to Aix or France before, but of course he cooks in a traditional, a way that combines, like British cuisine does, combines all sorts of different influences from different countries. And so he went over and took over this French restaurant, and was on the front page of the local newspaper. And I think everyone was thinking, oh God, do we really want to go? But they did, and it was so successful. They kept asking him back, actually. Sometimes it's good to get rid of preconceived ideas. And I think English cooking, which combines all sorts of wonderful influences, including traditional French influences, I think it's very good, our cuisine. We were actually, the Twinning Association, we always celebrate the 14th of July by having a lunch together in a French restaurant in Bath, and we were going to go to Chez Dominique. And I'd booked the whole restaurant out for us, but of course with COVID we couldn't do that. We find good ways of celebrating what we're already good at and opening doors to new experiences.
Thank you, Marian. Does anybody either have a question, or would you
There's a
like
question
to make
in
any?
the chat, Jane. So
Okay.
One. So Anna Berrier, who I have to say has a bit of a vested interest in this question, but she is asking, would new twinnings be a possibility, for example, with Italy? And she suggests there's a spa town called Aquiterme, which might be a nice sort of twin with Bath. But what would the process be for new twinnings in other countries?
It would be very difficult, unfortunately. To have an official twinning is we're now with our 4 official ones, and Beppu is a friendship link, as is Manly in Australia. But we do get asked a lot. Perugia, for example, in Italy, which is twinned with Aix, would love to be twinned with us as well. And we've been inundated in the past with Chinese cities wanting to twin with us. But there's no reason, if someone was able to run with it, seriously run with it, that we couldn't have a friendship link as we have with Beppu. And that was Councillor Paul Crossley, absolutely running with that and getting local Japanese people involved and putting on festivals here and trying to spread the word about Japanese culture. It's possible, but you have to be determined. And it probably at this stage needs one very passionate, well-organized person to do it.
There you go, Anna.
Yes. Absolutely.
You talked yourself into that.
You've got a job, Anna.
You've got a job. Does anybody? Oh yes, hi Ruth. Yes.
Sorry, I was just to say about that. A lot of it is coming back to money, I'm afraid. So the 4 main twinning associations, and also now the Bath Beppu Friendship Association, do get some funding from the Mayor's office, which is very helpful. All the others have got to sort of run on their own, according to a different model. So it's a question of working out, what you can do without with as little money as possible. That's where coming back to the Zoom element is so good, I think, because that doesn't really cost anything. But looking ahead, it would, you know, you've got to have to consider that, you know, how it would be funded. But that shouldn't put anybody off, of course. I've also been very keen on a link with Italy because I actually studied Italian, and I always thought it was a shame that we didn't have a twin city in Italy. There's another place that's sorry, spa waters, that's called Montecatini Terme, and I mean, I don't know if they have already a twin in this country, but they are in a way linked to Bath because of the Great Spas of Europe project that yeah, again, Sue Craig is involved with in particular. But so there's already a link, or potentially a link there. But yes, and the other thing I discovered today, I mean, I don't know, it will probably be very difficult to do anything about it at the current moment, but I've only just realized that Hong Kong does not have any twin, you know, or sister cities, because technically it's not a country in its own right, and it's not been able to in the past. So I don't know, that would be a very interesting one to look at, wouldn't it? A link with Hong Kong, especially at the current moment. Anyway, sorry, go back.
Thank you.
So we've had another question in the chat from Sally. So what is the difference between a friendship link and a twinning, and why is it that no more twinning is possible? Does it really boil down to the money?
It does, yeah, because at the moment we submit an application, a very detailed application for funding, and we have to outline exactly how we're going to spend the funding, which is a maximum of £1,000 a year. And that will only go to the 4 official twinning associations, but only if we satisfy the criteria. And one of them is to develop new links. And another one is to look at the economic drivers that twinning can bring. The Christmas market, for example, in Aix and in Bath is a serious economic driver. And we're looking all the time at other possibilities. And we can use that money as well to subsidize groups going over. So if we have any youth groups, we probably would find a good, you know, as much as we could to support them. The choirs that go over, if they ask, we can support them for up to £150. So that money is very carefully spent, and we present our accounts, of course, for inspection through the Mayor's office. So everything is very, yeah, and the reason why we just can't really, well, I at the moment anyway, we can't have any more official links is because of that financial aspect. But as we've said, and Ruth has said, friendship links, definitely, why not?
So what does, so a friendship link, obviously there's no money allocated to that. So how does that differ in terms of what people actually do? I mean, are people going on visits to friend cities or?
Yeah, you obviously, I would think in the first instance, you go through the British Council, see if that particular city, say in Italy, has a link, a twin, and if they haven't and they want one, then obviously you got talks with them, and you know, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's not impossible. As I see, you probably have to have some clear events and organisations that are going to benefit from those links.
Yeah. Other questions?
Yes. So are there any local schools that are directly involved with twinning at the moment?
Yes. King Edward School twins, has a twin city a twin school rather in Aix, and they've been going for years and years. We've had Beach and Cliff and Haysfield have been interested, and Ralph Allen, St Greg's. So the Bath schools, yeah, they've come in and out, and it often depends actually on a head of department or a teacher who has a special interest in taking a group abroad, or it may be that we offer them a place at a sporting event a competition that they could take part in, or a musical event. So I mean, really, we try so hard to get the schools involved, and I know Mary is very passionate about this as well. I think the e-twinning with schools could actually be an impetus for us as well as a twinning association to really get involved with setting up those links and facilitate whatever we can. We're there as facilitators. So yeah, the will is there, definitely. We just need, I think it could happen actually with that e-twinning. I'm very, very encouraged by that.
Yeah, it sounds great. Any other questions?
There's just one more on the chat. Do we have any links with any Spanish cities at all?
No, we don't. We sing with choirs from Granada because Granada is twinned with Aix. And also with the twinning market, the twinning Christmas market in Aix, the people from Granada are usually there, aren't they, Mary? Yes, yeah. So we don't have any official links, but we join in with them through Aix, through our connections with Aix, which is lovely actually, you know, to sing with Spanish choirs as we did last year is incredible. The music is just so different, and for the Silver Ring Choir, for example, to hear that Spanish music was a revelation in a way, and to be standing next to them. Festival Choral, all the choirs sing together, and then there's always something afterwards, and the Spanish always get into a little huddle, and they get into a huddle and they stand and sit round a circle, and then someone produces a special I can't remember the name of the flamenco drum that, you know, do you know it? And then absolutely out of that huddle, dancers emerge, and they dance traditional Spanish flamenco dancing that you would never see as a tourist. You know, it's really authentic stuff. And those sort of things are just so exciting.
I think there's another question from Frederica on the chat. In the chat room. In a situation like Edinburgh, where twinning is discouraged, not given a priority by the council, is there anything that can be done? So basically it's about petitioning the council. What can you do if the council is actively discouraging it?
Well, that's sad. Something must have happened in Edinburgh. I've no idea. I didn't know that. But they must have had twinning links, because obviously Edinburgh, that would have been set up after World War II. And so I suppose you have to find out what happened, and if it can be resurrected, or, you know, I mean, it's great that we've got Ruth now, Ruth Malloy, who is representing twinning in the council, and you need committed people. None of this happens without people really believing in it, you know, like most good things. You've got to believe in it, but it does draw you together. It gives you a purpose. So I hope perhaps things could improve in Edinburgh. It would be a good thing if they did.
Can I answer some of these things, please? Because I'm in Edinburgh right now, and I have been investigating the situation. Firstly, I have to say I have much more experience of town twinning in Aix with Paris Saint-Germain. And the situation in Aix and Edinburgh are totally different for the obvious reasons that the population of Aix is 50,000 people, and we're 500,000 in Edinburgh. So town twinning is much more important in Aix than it ever was in Edinburgh, because in Edinburgh there are so many other means of linking countries throughout the world. I mean, above all, there's the international festival, so there's all kinds of links that we would have anyway in Edinburgh. The other thing I want to say about Aix is that our partner, Paris Saint-Germain, is given a lot of support from the Maison des Associations, which is, I understand, part of the local council. So they've always had money and they're very keen. And this has rubbed off on Aix, and we've managed to get councillors involved in Aix, and the situation has become healthier. However, I have to say that the people who join are of a certain age group, and we cannot get involvement from younger people. And I take on board a lot of what you said about it's much more difficult for teachers to take groups abroad now. It's a nightmare, I would say. As a former teacher myself, I wouldn't want to take the responsibility. So this sort of thing has become much more difficult, but it's noticeable that it's a sort of sedate middle class that are interested in town twinning in Aix. Now in Edinburgh, the situation is totally different. Edinburgh had or has 11 cities twinned with it. Of those, there are 5 still existing within Europe, but there's also town twinning with Kiev in the Ukraine, Dunedin in New Zealand, San Diego in the US, Shenzhen and Xi'an in China, and Vancouver in Canada. So it was originally a much wider thing, but as you pointed out, a lot of these things came into being post-war. And that generation is frankly dying out. And for some reason or other, there hasn't been regeneration. I've been in touch with the part of Edinburgh Council, which is responsible for town twinning, but they have made no bones about it. I have a policy document here. It says it should be clear that no more new town twinning activity should take place, and current twinning arrangements should not be given priority. And in a private letter, I was also told we are being reactive. In other words, if one of the other towns abroad contacts Edinburgh Council, they will see what they want to do. However, that doesn't mean to say they're just sitting back and doing nothing. They've become very much involved in Eurocities, which is another EU project with 140 cities in it. But I'm not clear, I haven't researched it enough to know exactly how one can get involved in Eurocities. To begin with, I thought it was purely on government level, local government. They're very interested in sustainability and economic affairs. They pay lip service to cultural relations, but there's other things in Edinburgh, like the International Festival, which take care of that. So they're not really focusing on that at all. But Eurocities also seems to have project running under it, which is Europe for Citizens, and there does seem to be some grassroots involvement there, but how one gets involved in it, I still have to find out. However, it is clear that town twinning associations, I think we have to be careful about investing too much effort. I'm delighted that it's working so well in Bath, but I know that there's lots of places where it doesn't work and where it's dying out. And it might be a better idea to try to switch one's focus to things that have more of a future.
Thank you, Denise. We have one other question from Linda Graham. Linda Graham wants to know, how does a choir go about asking to join the twinning with other choirs?
Do you know, I've seen that Isabel de Castro is with us from Aix, and I'm going to ask her if she could tell us how the festival, what I call the Festival Choral, it's the twinning music festival. Isabel, would you like to do that? She's on, for me, she's over the page.
She has there are two screens. She's on two devices.
Isabel. Ah, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Can you hear me? I am muted.
Yes.
Good. Actually, if you come from a twin city, all you have to do is to contact your local twin association, and you'll get information about our festival, which is the Festival Musical des Villes Jumelles Européennes. And you can join, obviously. You need to do it fast because we have a very large waiting list. Thanks to Marian, who's been broadcasting about our festival. So there are many, many choirs wanting to come to Aix. So you really need to join your local twinning association.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, we've just passed 3 o'clock now, so probably it's time to bring this to an end. But before we go, obviously another huge thank you to Marian and to all our guests who've joined us from Aix and from all over the country, which is wonderful. Please, can we just remind you, we've got some events coming up, some Bath for Europe Zoom events, of course. We have Michael Dugan when is it? August the 12th.
12th of August, yeah, that's right.
12th of August. So Michael Dugan, the details are on our Facebook page and on our website. Then we also have our next Euro Cafe Pulse, first Sunday in September.
That'll be the 6th of September.
We are hoping to possibly join with Cambridge for Europe to present an Ian Dunt event. So all the details will be on our social media pages. So thank you to Marian and thank you to everyone. And it has been lovely spending this Sunday afternoon with you. And the details about twinning, we will put them on our website as well. So you'll be able to find them there and perhaps on our Facebook pages so that we have the information there. And this will be recorded. This has been recorded. And we will be posting it probably in a week. It takes us a while to actually post it onto our YouTube channel and then onto our website. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks,
Bye.
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 Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Weekend.